This is the fashion retail revenue war. Reported fashion retail revenue converted to nominal US dollars, issuer by issuer. No GMV, no invented private company estimates, and no pretending these fiscal years all ended on the same day. The first board is already a warning. The biggest name is not the most fashionable one. In 2001, Gap is still enormous at the top, nearly $14 billion, while H&M, Inditex, and Next are fighting over a much smaller global opportunity. Primark is only just entering the board, and fast fashion is still a category, not yet the operating system of the market. In 2002, fast retailing appears as a real fifth-place challenger at $2.75 billion, just behind Next. The board is widening, and the next fight will come from companies built for speed rather than inherited scale. Gap will not shrink much over the next 20 years. It simply stops moving. In 2003, H&M and Inditex are closing on each other. $5.97 billion versus $5.20. Next still leads the challengers, but fast retailing is holding the fifth row. Inditex designs in-house and can turn a collection in weeks. The others still buy a season ahead. That is the whole difference. By 2004, the middle tightens. Next is at $4.61 billion, fast retailing at $3.14, and Primark at $1.57. JD Sports now holds the seventh row. And at the top, H&M and Inditex are separated by less than $300 million. Then the first handoff. In 2005, Inditex edges ahead of H&M, $8.39 billion against $8.20. The gap is tiny, but the model is different. More stores, faster turns, and a design-to-shelf loop built to keep changing the window. In 2006, Urban Outfitters moves above JD Sports in the lower field, $1.09 billion to $0.90. Even below the headline leaders, the ordering is already unstable. By 2007, Gap is still first, but Gap's lead has narrowed to about $2.8 billion over Inditex. H&M is close behind, and the old order is about to break. By 2008, Inditex passes Gap on the issuer year comparison. Gap is still a giant, but Inditex is now the larger global fashion retailer, $15.3 billion to $14.5. The leadership change arrives before the old leader looks small. A year later, fast retailing moves above Next. Uniqlo's parent is no longer a Japanese specialist sitting behind the British incumbent. It is becoming a global group. Its revenue reaches $7.3 billion, while Next is just over $5. In 2010, H&M passes Gap for second place, $15.05 billion to $14.66. The old mall scale leader is still enormous, but it has been pushed down another row. In 2011, fast retailing crosses $10 billion, and Inditex is pulling away from H&M rather than trading places with it. The top three are now a Spanish group, a Swedish group, and an American one that has stopped growing. In 2012, Primark's normalized segment path edges above Next. That comparison keeps the Ventura scope change visible instead of splicing two different businesses together. The point is not that 1 year proves a winner. It is that the low-price, high-volume model has reached the middle of the board. By 2013, the shape of the whole chart is set. Inditex has grown roughly 9 times over since 2000. Gap has grown about 18%. Nobody overtook Gap by beating it. They overtook it by moving while it stood still. By 2014, the bottom of the board belongs to two American specialty apparel groups, Abercrombie at $3.74 billion and American Eagle at $3.28. They have held those rows since 2008, and neither is a classic fast fashion peer. Broad fashion retail widens the field. It does not erase the scope differences underneath. 2015 is the last year Abercrombie appears on this board at all. It finishes dead level with American Eagle at $3.52 billion, and then drops out of the visible 8 for good. In 2016, fast retailing moves above Gap. The middle of the board now has 3 different answers to the same question: Gap's portfolio scale, fast retailing's vertically controlled brands, and the newer specialists crowding the lower rows. The lower field starts to move. Just off the board, JD Sports is climbing, $3.06 billion in 2017, and its sports fashion and outdoor group is no longer a niche challenger. On the board, American Eagle and Urban Outfitters hold the last 2 rows, and slot number 8 is becoming a real editorial choice rather than empty space. In 2018, JD enters the visible field by moving above American Eagle, $4.22 billion to $4.04. Sports fashion is no longer just filling the lower rows. It is taking a main board position. In 2019, the assembled group becomes visible. At $6 billion, JD rises above Next and enters the upper field. Finish Line and Foot Asylum are part of the story, so this is not pure organic growth. It is a group being built in public. The pandemic reset is not a clean changing of the guard. Revenue falls across every row at once. Inditex alone gives back more than $8 billion in a single year. But the lower board does move. At $7.83 billion, JD edges above Primark at $7.56, and ASOS climbs into the visible 8th row for the first time. Then the lower field produces its clearest reversal. Next drops off the visible board at $4.86 billion, while ASOS is ahead at $5.38. Online fashion has its moment, but the chart is not finished moving. One year later, Next returns above ASOS. The online lead was real, but not permanent. Next stores, online business and platform services combined for $5.7 billion, while ASOS slips just under $5 and off the board. Primark clears $11 billion for the first time in 2023, and its rise changes the shape of the middle board. It is not competing through digital convenience. It is competing through price, physical scale, and a deliberately simple proposition. In the final stretch, JD keeps climbing, LPP reaches row 8, and the cutoff tightens around American Eagle, Urban Outfitters, and M&S. Fashion changes every season, but the scorecard keeps coming back to one question: who can restock fastest? When the latest board lands, Inditex is still first. H&M and fast retailing chase. Gap, JD, Primark, Next, and LPP fill the rest.